Cheers.
Cheers.
Wine Wednesday.
Wine Wednesday. I forgot, what am I drinking?
You have a very nice bottle
It's
here.
pretty. I do actually like it. I do pick my bottles by the labels. And this is, if anybody knows me, it is a pretty elegant bottle, and I would have definitely picked it. Hawks View Winery, Willamette Valley.
Mine's Chateau de Michel, but it's out of Woodinville, Washington. So it's, yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, it's really good. It tastes good. I actually really like that. So that bottle would look really cute once it's all cleaned out and put some lights in it.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, so
Today we're talking about, unique financing. So seller carried financing, private money, assumable things, assumable loans,
assume, yeah.
and the Fed. So those are our topics for the day.
Yep. Creative financing.
Yeah.
You got to think outside of the box.
Well,
you can't be a square.
Right. There's different things we can do to find ways to make it work, and I think that's a key to making finding deals and finding helping clients navigate our current environment. So one of the things that we were talking about was seller carried financing. It's kind of come back. It was popular long ago, and then now it's back with a vengeance. I think there's some real benefits there. So,
oh gosh, yes, I've done at least, I want to say probably at least a dozen of them over my 18 years. I think my very first one I ever did was in the very first year or 2 years that I started the business.
Right.
And it's over on Mountain View Lane. There used to be a house there. There is no longer a house, and it's a landscaping business.
oh, all right.
So it was I was just like fumbling through because asking other people, and they're like, I don't know what to do. So it was a lot of research, a lot of questions, especially with, if you have a great title officer, escrow officer, they are a wealth of information when it comes to that. They literally helped me. Renata helped me tremendously, to the point that it's almost second nature.
Right.
So last year I did two. I did one that I ended up, oh my God, that was a very, very creative one. It was a fourplex.
Right.
She's owned it for years. She wanted to get rid of it because she's getting up in her age, and she didn't want to have the capital gains on it.
Right.
But we wanted to spread that out over the remainder, for the next 10 years, 5 to 10 years, and then whatever happens. And we had it on there, and we got a couple calls, and the two guys that ended up coming in, oh my God, they were amazing. They were super great to work with. I ended up double-ending that deal, so it was really nice because I knew what I was doing. They knew what they were doing because apparently they buy all of their investment properties that way.
Yeah.
All of them were bought on an owner-carry contract.
Right.
Because it's just easier, and they get to work with the owner, and then they're just paying everything up. So there's a lot of different steps. First of all, you got to find out, how much they own on the property. What's going on with the property? Are they in that position where they can go ahead and do this? Because not every property can do that. We don't want them in the hole or in the negative. And then you got to learn how to do an amortization schedule. So there's so many tools out there, and in RMLS, there's an amortization schedule that is amazing. It's free. It's easy to use. You just got to know what you're doing.
Right.
And plug in all the numbers, and then just put it all together and figure out your going interest rate. You're using the interest rate of today's market. You're plugging it in there. You're coming up with their down payment. You're figuring all of that out. Some people are like, and I've had agents come and they're like, how do you do that? Do you get paid right away up front or later on? No, I get paid up front.
Yeah.
And then everything goes through, and then really working hard, well with your escrow officer.
Right.
Because it's not a deed, it's a contract. So they will write the contract up for you and help you with that. And then there's a third party that collects all the funds.
Well, and the benefit there is, a lot of times if you're selling to family under a seller carried contract, something like that, having that third party being the mediator to collect the payments, that can be a benefit. Just saying.
Yeah, exactly, because they're your bad guy.
Right.
They can be your good guy and their bad guy, and they're collecting all the funds.
Right.
And they're making sure the property taxes get paid. They're making sure that the insurance gets paid. And then it just pools there. And then every year, or depending on when you want your funds, sent to you, it's going to you. And then it just like a mortgage, just like any other thing, you're starting off and you're paying a lot in your interest and very little in your principal. And then it just slowly twinkles down or trickles down. And then you have your balloon payment.
Right.
And by that time, you've got enough equity in there that you can refinance it and pay it off.
Right.
And then
You've had the property for a while, you've reported the income, you can use traditional means at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you've got all those improvements that you've been doing because it's yours.
Right.
I do have to say, I had to foreclose on one.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that was an interesting thing. They were supposed, they were doing everything that they were supposed to do and everything like that. They forgot to pay. They decided that they wanted to do the property taxes on their own.
Oh.
Note to self, never do that. Even if you're doing owner-carried contract, just have that third party pay your property taxes.
Right.
Because it's easy to miss.
Right.
So it's not something that goes out every single month. They're like, no, we'll just wait for that bill. Well, the first bill came. They didn't pay it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the second year came. They didn't pay it. The third year came. They didn't pay it. Guess what happens after 3 years?
The county comes knocking on the door.
Exactly. It's not your traditional foreclosure. Right. It's IRS foreclosing.
Right.
Everything comes due, and they only let you go 3 years. So then it was like, oh, okay, well, they hadn't done any of the improvements that they were supposed to do to get it to the point where they can finance it. Mm-hmm. So the money they did put into it, they lost, and we had to foreclose on them.
And then they didn't have the money to pay the back property taxes at that point.
No.
That's terrible.
Not at all.
Yeah.
But they lost a lot of money too, because they were paying the monthly payment every single month, but they just failed to do that little piece.
Right.
So it's very important that you use that third party.
Right.
That third party is, you pay a little bit for that third party, but it will literally save you.
It's just the reminders, for sure.
Yes. We all need those reminders.
Right.
I personally did that one time myself when I refinanced. I'm like, oh, now I'm going to save the money. And when that tax bill came, I'm like, holy shit.
And it's always right before Christmas.
Yes.
And then you're like,
November 15th. What? Where am I coming up with that? Oh, man. I guess the kids aren't getting presents. Yes. Learned after that, escrow account is your best friend.
Yes. Now, another one that came up recently, it was private money. And private money is they're kind of Wild West, So I have several people that I network with for private money, but they would only go up to 60% on a particular property, but they would allow seller carried financing for 20% of it, or even the whole back end of it without a down payment. And their benefit there was they weren't taking the full risk, and the seller is going to be in second position in that. So there can be some benefits. Usually I see seller carried financing, they want to put, a good portion down.
Right.
Usually they want to see at least 10% down. That's not a hard and fast rule, so, you always ask questions, but.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, but it does allow for options. And leading into private money.
Yes, I've done a couple of those.
Yeah.
And they're interesting, and
it's almost like a cash deal.
It is, yes.
There's two companies that I know of that do owner carried or owner occupied. Most of them across the board are investment only. But in that example, they're not looking at income, they're just looking at the assets. They just want to make sure that there's an exit strategy to get their money back, right? So there can be some opportunities there if traditional financing is not an option.
Right, exactly.
For income or credit or whatever reasons.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then assumable. You've seen some assumable loans.
Yes,
Yeah.
I have. Yes. And even with some of my listings right now, I'm checking are they even going to be, are they assumable so that we can market it that way? Because holy cow, that would be a game changer. If
Right.
somebody can come in and take over their 2-3% interest rate, especially right now.
I had a scenario in Hillsborough. The client had a $300,000 first mortgage, but it was like at 2.5% on a VA loan. Totally assumable. sales price was in the 5s, so the difference is you have to come in with a down payment, but you could have that 2.5% rate. So that was something that was a good option and a sales feature, because the difference in payments was over $1,000.
Oh,
So-
and that right there will save you
Yeah, yeah.
so much more in the long run.
Right, right. So typically I see the assumable loans are FHA, VA, USDA, not absolute on that, but I've seen that. And then, it gives you the option to be able to possibly recapture that lower interest rate.
Right.
So just coming up with a down payment, so.
Exactly. So if there are some of them that are thinking about selling and they do have that FHA, VA, whatever they, that's more of a appealing factor.
Right, and it makes your home stand out.
Yes.
In the against the competition out there.
Yes,
So,
exactly. Yes,
Yeah.
I totally agree.
yeah. What else are we covering today? We've got the assumable loans. We talked about the
Owner carried contracts,
private
money.
and
Oh gosh. I haven't really been seeing that much of USDA. Have you been seeing that much of USDA?
talked about one just a day or two ago. They are redoing the lines, the map lines. It's not coming out until October 1st, so more information on that next week. But they're redoing the map lines based on what they consider rural areas. At one point, Forest Grove was not in a USDA area, and then they put a stay on that, and they put it back in USDA. So I'll be eager to see what happens next week if that changes.
And is that it's not solely based on population, or is it?
They say it is, but at the same time, Forest Grove has almost 30,000 people in it now.
Right.
So I don't think it's uniquely limited to population.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So,
What about, there was a little chatter about that, I'm going to mispronounce it.
Chinoa.
Chinoa.
Chinoa. You know it, Chinoa? Chinoa is a great program. It does cover the down payment. So you have an example of an FHA first, and then you have a second mortgage that covers the down payment for that 3.5%.
Okay.
So that can be a really good program because it allows for someone to get in with little to no money out of pocket.
Right.
It is more expensive. So
Okay.
if it's a scenario where the client has really good credit, I'll actually refer it out. I really like OnPoint has a wonderful program called Just for Starters, and I have a couple people over there that I work with. So I will refer those over to them if it's a good fit there. And I guess maybe that makes me kind of unique or different because I will refer it out to other lenders, and it's what's right for the client.
Right. Yes, we are about, we want to just make sure that the client's taken care of.
One-stop shopping. That's the way it should be.
Exactly. I think creative financing, I think we've covered everything
We've
that I
covered
can
almost
think
everything.
of.
Yeah, absolutely.
If there's anything that you've heard of or want more information about for creative financing, please send us a message and we'll do some research on it and we'll get back to you with all the information that we can come up with.
And we'll cover it in the next Wine Wednesday.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Cheers.